The white Isuzu Elf was driven by Daisy Osborne, a Scottish lass on a working holiday in Australia. She took it easy through the Noah Creek turns, even though the road was almost dry after their earlier downpour. It was nearly time for her evening shift at Hideaway House, and she didn't want to be late again. She'd been in trouble a few days earlier when she turned up for her breakfast shift at 7:30 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. So she didn't want to risk Joan Holloway Potts-Jones's fury at another stupid excuse, like she'd lost her phone. Daisy's breaks at PK's Backpackers were always fun, but she sometimes drank a few too many beers, laughed a little bit too much with Denny and Mario, then went to bed a little bit too late and missed her alarm. This Monday she'd been super pleased with herself, having refrained from retiring too late, having resisted Mario's endless pleas, and having got started reasonably early, after a swim in the pool, a good breakfast, and a lazy walk on the beach. She didn't much like the Isuzu, preferring the old Hi-Ace they'd had before, but since the oldies liked a day out now and again, they needed a bigger bus, and the 12-seater Elf was doing the job well. As she rounded the last corner of the Noah Creek Range, she noticed a group of bedraggled individuals climbing onto the road from the forest. They looked half-drowned and exhausted, so being a kind and caring sort of girl, Daisy put her brakes on and coasted to a stop. She stuck her head out of the window. "You people look like you need a ride." Dan was the least exhausted of the five. "We do indeed, miss. We had an accident here this morning and lost our bus down the river." "Is there any way you could take us to safety?" "Most definitely. Jump in. I have to go to work, though, up at Hideaway House Retirement Home, but they'll probably call someone for you, or let me take you somewhere after I finish my shift, which would be tomorrow morning. Would that work?" "I'm sure it would, thank you. This young lady will take us somewhere safe where we can get help, so let's hop in, shall we?" The four survivors climbed into the bus, nodding gratefully to Daisy. No one spoke during the next 20 minutes while the bus trundled along the road, over the sleeping policemen, featuring signs that looked like dead cassowaries lying on their backs. They'd seen those signs for bumps in the road before, designed as they were to slow the traffic down. They'd been amused by the creativity that gave a cassowary a role in making drivers aware of their presence. They weren't so taken with them that day, however, because they knew their crash had only occurred because one such huge, lonesome, flightless bird had been wandering blithely down the road in the middle of the bridge. When the Elf turned into Turpentine Road, then wound its way up the narrow drive on the right, over the stream and into the large gravel forecourt, the passengers sat up in their seats, for in front of them stood a huge timber house with carved pillars framing the double front doors. A discreet sign on the wall beside the pillars announced that they had arrived at Hideaway House. Daisy hopped out of the vehicle and opened the side door. The newcomers disembarked, gawping at the solar-panelled roof and the doors carved with animals and bird figures. "Would you wait for a minute, please, while I pop in and warn them that you're here?" Daisy disappeared through the front doors, leaving them staring at the enormous timber house. "Okay, you're good to come in now, but I'll warn you." She glanced at all five in turn. "This is not what you might expect from a retirement home." They trooped up the steps and through the open door. Inside it was dark, huge rattan fans circling, moving the air to make it cool and pleasant as they entered the reception hall. No one greeted them. Daisy led them into a colourful sitting room, where several elderly people were lounging in easy chairs. Orchestral music was playing softly in the background. The elderly group turned to examine the newcomers, and one blonde lady rose from her chair. She looked a bit like Lady Brienne from Game of Thrones, at least 6 foot tall. And she was totally naked.